What is up, everyone? Sean here, and welcome to my review, rapid fire style, once again. But this time we're going to be talking about Aladdin, the live action version of 2019. And I watched it just last night, so it's still pretty fresh in my mind. Um, and before I get into my actual review, yes, I've come from the generation of the animated film itself from '92. But I began watching it around, I want to say, 94, 5, or 6, or something like that. But um, I just absolutely enjoy the animated film so much. I had it on VHS, and I always, popped it into the VCR and played it so many times, and I just always remember the all the scenes and stuff like that, the songs, and especially with a whole new world, which is absolutely my favorite part of the entire film. And of course, Genie is another favorite part of the film itself. So I can definitely safely say that this is my favorite Disney animated film of all time here. Aladdin is a really good one, but I think that's something everyone can agree on. It's an undisputed, just good all around Disney film that you can still give this a watch for your kids, and I think they'll love it too, just because it's just still, I believe it holds that charm. Now, not that I watched the film recently, but I still have a good idea of how the scenes play out and stuff like that. And of course, there are some little small intricacies that I've forgotten in the past, but thanks to this film, it's like, oh yeah, this little part, kind of happened in the film, but it's, or the animated film, but the live action kind of does it differently in a way. But yeah, and so when the live action film was first revealed, you know, it didn't help that the other live action versions of the Disney films, such as Lion King and Dumbo, have been getting this like weird sort of feedback. You know what I mean? Because like, especially how they're taking it to in this certain direction with, Lion King being super realistic, and it's just really strange to me because, you know, the whole appeal of these films is that they're animated. They're like, super out of reality. It's something we can't really, you know, realm upon. But these films kind of paint that idea, and we can see that they're very expressive and very bright and kind of really, really out there and stuff. But with these realistic kind of elements thrown in there, it's just it definitely ruins it and waters down, and it's just something that we definitely are more likely to see, I guess. But that's not what we're here for. We're not here for reality. We're not here for our reality. We want to see a different reality, and I think that's why these animated films get so much love, especially from Disney here. And of course, Aladdin gets a live action version itself, right? And the trailer with Will Smith being the big blue genie, um, came off as really awkward and weird, and there's that whole thing with the uncanny valley thing going on too. But I think not only the trailer itself was awful or just mediocre at least, but I think the whole like live action kind of thing going on with these films I think it fed into more of the negative feedback for the first trailer, at least for the live action Aladdin. And so the newer trailers that came out after that had a lot better feedback. They show off the better parts, and we get a better idea of what's the movie going to be like. And it seems like Will Smith is back to that 90s Will Smith that everyone loves, including myself, especially from like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air days, and all that fun stuff. And it started to get really interesting, especially for me. And so I went to go see it on a Sunday night. So that's pretty much last night. And I came out of that theater pretty happy for the most part. I enjoyed most of the film. I liked it a lot better than I thought, and it definitely, I guess, it exceeded my expectations. But I definitely wanted to go in there with neutral expectations, pretty much, because it's live action. You know what I mean? And this is coming from someone who loves animation, who loves cartoons, who loves anime, so on and so forth. Of course, the comic books, manga, blah 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 blah, you name it, right? So as someone who really enjoys those things and coming out being able to enjoy the most of the film for the live action Aladdin does say something, I guess. So I think it does the job of being a live action Aladdin. I enjoyed it, and surprisingly, the best part of this film is Will Smith. I think he did a really good job being his own kind of genie. He did his own little twist. It's that '90s Will Smith sort of that character acting or whatever whatever you want to call it from Will Smith, and I definitely loved it. Maybe people will get some like Hitch vibes or something, but I kind of like got that like that Will vibe from Fresh Prince. He's always kind of like that wingman sort of character to me, and he does a really good job doing that. So I feel like definitely like if you're gonna have Will Smith in future movies that feature some comedy or lighthearted sort of vibes and stuff, not being like dark and gritty and very serious and like I Am Legend. I mean I like I Am Legend, but oh man, what was that film? That really weird film with his son. I think it was like After Earth or something like that. Those kind of films don't really work for Will Smith. So films like this is a very warm welcoming for him, and I just really wanted to continue seeing that Will Smith. So yeah, he was definitely the best part, and obviously I think he was aware that he can, he'll definitely never live up to the great Robin Williams, because he pretty much is the genie. He was such a just a distinguished actor, and he just absolutely was perfect for the role of genie, being this all powerful magical being who can just do anything he wants and be whoever he wants as long as he's bound to the lamp and follows his master's orders. So someone like Robin Williams was perfect because he's just absolutely all over the place, but yet he's in control, and it just absolutely worked. And so that's why he's a legend amongst the Disney fans, I guess, or the Disney sort of fandom. But with Will Smith, again, I mean, I enjoyed his twist on the genie, and it felt like he definitely still felt like that wingman. It's just different, and and again, it reminded me of that Fresh Prince sort of Will, and I loved it. Whether he was the blue genie or he was the human form of genie, so it was nice to have that balance. So that way, we don't have to like start to feel kind of creeped out by the big blue giant genie. But I think by then though, like they really was able to get the CGI effects down, so you can definitely tolerate the big blue genie Will. So I think they did their best with Will's face, just trying to make him the genie, and it definitely is noticeably different when there's that certain screenshot of Will Smith whenever he pops up and tries to explain things to Aladdin and stuff, and it definitely was different to me anyway. But I don't know, maybe someone else can or might pick up something a little different. But anyway, he was definitely the best part of the film. What about the other characters? Aladdin was pretty much, what you can get from a live action Aladdin. Maybe obviously, I can't, the animated Aladdin is something you can't really live up to again, but he did what he could for the actor. I forget his name, forgive me, but Mena Massoud. I think that's his name, but yeah, he's the Canadian Egyptian actor. Forgive me if I butchered his name, but Mena did what he could, and he definitely is Aladdin in that way, I guess, and I enjoyed it for that, and Jasmine, yeah, it's again, it's kind of like a similar thing. Like they did what they could um with their roles, and kind of try not to live up to the animated characters or whatever, but try to be their own. And I think they owned it. I think they pretty much were able to nail it for the most part for what they were given and what are capable of. And I'm not sure if they had they were the same when it comes to the singing voices and stuff like that. Because if you look into the animated film, the voice actor the voice actor of the cartoon characters don't actually sing. They have separate singers during the musical bits, which was interesting when I first found that out. But I think for the most part, they were their own singers. So, but let me see. I just want to make sure. But, but anywho, speaking of the singing, I guess. Well, actually, let me cover the other characters first. So the Sultan or Baba, I thought he was pretty interesting actually. Like this is a completely like more like believable king, in my opinion. I guess in a way he might be the live. This is the one case where the live action version is maybe better than the animated Sultan, but yeah, the animated Sultan or Baba, I guess. I don't know. Like as a child, I couldn't take him seriously. Maybe now, if I actually watch the animated film, maybe now that because I know what's what, and I don't know. It's just like it was interesting though. Like the live action version, he really like took himself seriously as a king, and I don't know. Maybe people have different opinions about that. They like prefer the more lighthearted version. This one's a little more of a serious one. Like, but it does make sense. He's the father of Jasmine, who is a princess that is locked away because her mother died in the past, and her father is just so afraid that he'll lose her too, and he just locks her away. So that's that. So he is pretty much like, I don't know. He not only nailed the role as the Sultan, but I don't know. I can't explain it to further words. It just I really liked him. So it was kind of cool. It was pretty cool to see that. I guess in a live action kind of setting. Anyways, the other important character, well, Jafar. I guess I'll save Jafar first. There are newer characters. I want to say like there was one prince that came from another country because they want that noble royal family line, so they want to keep it like just with royalty. So Jasmine can only marry other princes of other kingdoms, and so they brought this guy in, and I don't think he's ever from the animated film, but definitely they had a new character with the handmaiden of Jasmine, Dahlia, I believe her name was. She was funny. I liked her. She does have actually some romantic ties with the human form of Genie later on, which was pretty interesting of how that played out. And another new character, I guess, quote unquote, is the captain of the guards. He played some significant role in the way, I guess, but that's like later on in the film, and you don't really get to see him that much. So, but I guess nonetheless, he is still considered a significant character, I guess, in a way. But yeah, nonetheless, he's new. I don't think he was ever like, I don't think they have someone like him from the animated film. I and then the tiger, Raja, I think his name was, um, also makes it in there, but it's just a completely like CGI kind of tiger. But it's a pretty good CGI effect, I guess, with Raja, the tiger. So um, they did what they could, and they pretty much handled him how you would kind of expect as a protective pet for a princess. But he does have some of his moments. But yeah, it's just hard because you're trying to throw in this realism thing again. It's like how Lion King is like. Why? What's the point of this whole thing in the first place? Especially with Lion King. At least Aladdin has some reason to be live action, but Lion King is just like everyone's real or super realistic. So you're not gonna really see all these expressions that the cartoon characters do, and it just doesn't work when you try to tie it with these cartoon characters. Anyways, I don't want to derail too far. So um, obviously the cartoony version of Rajah is more expressive, but again, they did what they could with them. And speaking of animals, freaking Iago was one of the disappointments, I believe. He literally was just a talking parrot who just repeated some words and spoke in like very in short bursts, like a parrot would. So again, that realism doesn't really work. They made him to an actual um like a realistic macaw parrot. So like again, that realism really kills it for these like the animal cartoon characters. So Rajan was okay, but Iago was super expressive. He was like, previously he was voiced by Gilbert Gottfried in the animated film, and that was another memorable role. So that's why he was like a big character in the TV series that they had with Aladdin. I remember watching that on the Disney Channel, which was pretty cool at the time. Having it to continue in a as a TV series. But anyway, Iago, it was just it was a disappointment not to hear, like not it's not Gilbert Gottfried. It's just it just didn't work for me. So I just didn't buy this Iago. I don't think his name was ever mentioned. Like I think Jafar just kept calling him Parrot or something throughout the film. So I don't know. Like it was just kind of like a throwaway sort of situation to me. It felt like so. Um, yeah, this is definitely not the same kind of Iago, and they just didn't even try to capture the same like spirit of Iago. It just didn't work this time. Unlike with Genie, Genie was his own thing because of Will Smith, and Will Smith is a great actor and all, very charming and very like charismatic and all. But this Iago is nothing of charismatic and charming at all. Not even funny or anything. It's just kind of just like, we have a thief or something. Like, I don't know. I didn't like it. I just definitely was disappointed by that part. Another disappointment, though, was Jafar himself. Like, Jafar was the other memorable character from the animated film, and this is coming from someone who loves the villains and a lot of these stories, and including Ursula, freaking Maleficent, Hades, like so on and so forth, man. And Jafar is definitely one of the villains of the Disney lineup, and I feel like this Jafar just didn't really cut it for me overall. There were some interesting things. And I don't think I mean I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but there are some differences, with this film in comparison to Aladdin in terms of like the storyline and stuff like that, the storytelling and all that, and like elements and all that. And of course, live action versus cartoon. That's an obvious difference, but that's not what I was trying to refer to. Anyway, Jafar was just, I don't know, it just didn't have that same just villainous, like just heinous freaking um vibe or just presence. And it's not just like the the animated nature of Jafar. His face he had that long, really disgusting looking face with the beard and all. And his eyes, dude, like he had that like kind of like that sharp and yet like sort of droopy look in his eyes or something. It's hard to explain, but like um Jafar has that signature look, and he had the voice to back it up. But Jafar just, of course, the look, they did what they could. I like the costume for Jafar, but the delivering stuff, it just didn't quite nail it on the head when it comes to Jafar. I just didn't buy this Jafar either, unfortunately. He just didn't have the same good kind of vibe or charm or anything like that. They even wasn't even like a different take on Jafar by any means. He tried to be like Jafar, and I think he, could not nail it hard like Will Smith did his own character or something. But I don't know. It's just I just didn't like how this Jafar was portrayed, and they could have done so much better with the casting on that one. Unfortunately, I mean, not saying that the actor was terrible or anything like that, but I think in this instance, it just didn't work for me. I just didn't buy this Jafar, and that's unfortunate. I love the villains, and this is one of the disappointments that come from this film. So that's how I feel with this live action film. But I guess most of the characters have been mentioned. But oh yeah, and there's Abu. Abu, is a monkey. I guess he's the realistic monkey again. These realistic animals, just doesn't land well with me. But they did a little better with Abu, I guess, because as a monk, as these monkeys are very agile. They can express themselves with their bodies, so so you can buy a little more, and they have some sort of facial animations for this Abu. So I guess it worked a little better, I guess. So in a way, maybe monkeys can work better, but when it comes to other animals, it's harder if you're gonna try to really emphasize on the realism. But yeah, Abu, he is pretty much Abu. Like, there's not really much of a distinctive difference other than the realism, of course. It's just Abu. Magic Carpet is Magic Carpet, but yeah, obviously with the CGI magic. So, but yeah, but I remember liking Magic Carpet from the animated film because just might have been the animated magic for that instance. But yeah, it's Magic Carpet though. He is a great supporting character for Aladdin and the others. Flying and stuff like that, and just obviously expresses with body language and stuff. So it's pretty funny, when it plays out. But yeah, I think that is it for the major characters anyway. I did mention about the handmaiden, right? So, oh yeah, because I mentioned about the romantic ties. So yeah, obviously, so yeah, like there were some like I said, there were some differences with the live action and the animated film, such as the genie actually having some romantic moments with another of the characters. So you never really see that with genie in the animated film. So I think things like that were pretty interesting, and it is welcoming to have some distinct differences with each other. So just to see genie having that expressing that side of that emotion is nice. It really does, it does raise questions as to like, having, that genie from the animated film. Did he ever had any, romantic feelings for someone in the past before he became a genie, or did he ever at all, So, or does he ever now? with another human character, or perhaps I don't know. But yeah, but at least this one was nice. It was interesting, and like I said, there were some different sides to Jafar, which was interesting. But again, the character himself was just a disappointment, and I feel like for a lot of people, he is the worst part of the film, unfortunately, because Jafar is the other side, the pretty much the other side of that seesaw. Like he balances out the film, and that's what he makes the he is the other part that makes the film, or the at least the animated film, whole because of his character. Besides, Genie and of course Aladdin and Jasmine and stuff. They're all great characters and stuff. They hold their own weight and all that. But here, no, not everyone does that. And Jafar, man, it's by far the biggest disappointment. And of course Iago is not too far behind that. And it really kind of shows sort of with the third act. And I feel like this was the weakest part because there were some things from the film that you really want to look forward to in CGI form, but it really doesn't happen. So in the animated film, I mean, obviously it's really old, so I think everyone or most people watch it by now. But if you haven't, go watch it right now. Or as soon as you can. It's absolutely a masterpiece. It is just one of the best Disney films of all time, and it's my personal favorite. So, there you go. Anyway, there was a scene in Aladdin, the animated film, where Jafar transforms into a giant cobra. The thing on his staff. That's what it represents. He turns into that pretty much. Just this giant, awesome freaking cobra, and you never get to see that in the freaking live action films. It's like, what the heck? So, like, that's like one of the things you do want to see in CGI form, and just him just see him in this like wicked transformation, but never happens. Never freaking happens. And the way he carries out his evil plot is kind of a lamer on the lamer side, in my opinion. That I won't spoil. You guys have to see that for yourselves. If you really want to see Aladdin, the live action film, that is. But I think for the most part, though, the Cave of Wonders, Frank Welker makes his return. That's awesome. I think that was a really awesome thing that they did. So that voice is back. I didn't really care that the mouth didn't move or anything like that. It's just the voice. You hear the voice, and that was definitely enough for me. And so the Cave of Wonders is definitely preserved pretty much. And I just absolutely love that part. It was really cool. Very nostalgic, very absolutely awesome to see that in a modern film like this. So I was pretty giddy about that. I was like, oh, it's so awesome, man. That's hearing that voice again, it's really a really good feeling. But yeah, so the other important part, of course, with these Disney films is the musical numbers, or the musical parts, I should say. And I, for the most part, thought they nailed it down. The biggest one, or probably a lot of people's favorites, including mine, is The Whole New World. I personally felt that it could have been done better. There were some parts where, and it's all Aladdin's parts, where you felt like he could have held this part out a little longer, but he kind of just cuts it off and just okay, like, oh, is that really it from you? In some parts, but overall, it was a pretty decent rendition, or modern rendition of A Whole New World for the most part. But I felt like it could have been a little better. It could have done a better job with it, but it still is a pretty good song. But the other parts were really good, good renditions of those songs. Like, Never Had a Friend Like Me, with Will Smith, and pretty much like all the songs with Will Smith, I actually really liked. You hear his take on the songs, and it's just really neat to kind of like pick up the the mantle after Robin Williams and and Will Smith is able to have his own take on it. So it was really neat. It was really nice to see the songs. I think there was like maybe one new song or something, um, but for the most part, the musical numbers were pretty decent. I would say to good. Um, but yeah, I feel like I was really looking forward to a whole new world, and I think I held too high of expectations a little bit. Especially I went out to see this in Dolby Cinema, so I was really embracing for some really good sounds from Whole New World. And it was okay, but again, I feel like they could have done more, and even on the visual side, they could have done more with the colors and stuff like that. Like I know it's at night, but even like with the animated film, you can like see more color and stuff. I felt, but there were some differences with this part too, and it left me personally disappointed because they didn't go to a certain part of the world after they ended that song, and that disappointed me. I'm like, oh my gosh, really? So they just went straight back home, and I'm like, what? This is just Agrabah, man. But anyway, I mean, it does deliver the same message, and Jasmine is like out there, and she's seeing like the world or whatever, in a different perspective, and she's like, wow and stuff. So, I guess it did the job or whatever of that scene. But anyway, I definitely felt that the musical numbers were decent or good or whatever, and so I know I was okay with it. But I want to definitely comment on the editing of at least the first two, or the first act anyway. When Aladdin was singing the first song or something, there were some parts where you kind of obviously see like the fast forwarding and stuff like that, and it's just kind of awkward at first, because obviously people can't, in real life move as fast as the animated characters, so it's hard. And you're singing at the same time, so it's like, what can you do? That won't, use CGI. Oh, you just fast forward it, to match the pacing and the tempo of the song and stuff, and the energy as well. So it in that sense, it does create another kind of sort of awkward kind of feeling with this style of editing. So I was just like, what? So, but it only happens with the first part of the film, so you kind of just get over it. And yeah, I pretty much was able to enjoy the rest of the Aladdin. The first two acts were pretty much like, they were able to preserve most of Aladdin, and then the third act was probably the most disappointing part. I mean, the final part of the third act was pretty good. It's very heartwarming and stuff, and you see how Genie gets free and stuff like that, and it's really really heartwarming and stuff, and very touching and all that. They were able to nail that part pretty well. Smith did a really good job with that, and you believe it. Like, it really does feel good when you see the final like outcome for Genie. So really, really, absolutely, a good feeling from that. So it is pretty satisfactory by the end of it, and there's some after credits, after credit stuff, with some dancing and stuff like that. It's really funny to see like the Aladdin characters kind of dancing to like some modern stuff, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, but otherwise, excuse me. Otherwise, overall, I was able to enjoy the most of the film. There were some funny parts. There was that part with Genie, like, literally making Aladdin a prince. You know what I mean? Like, and he shot him in the or he made him from like in the background and stuff like that, and he kind of just yells out like, "Y'all see my powers?" Like. I still kind of laugh at that for some reason. And then he even had some like other lines, which is still pretty funny. Like for some reason, like talking from far away is pretty funny to me, and it kind of gets me every time almost. Um, and like pretty much like all the scenes with Genie were pretty good. But yeah, just again, Jafar and Iago were like the biggest disappointments of this film. So, which was I feel like another good chunk of of what Aladdin was to me. So absolutely love the villains, and they just couldn't nail it down for this one. Um, yeah, the things that he did were pretty lame in comparison to the animated film. But again, there was like a couple of aspects that are interesting with the live action Jafar, but overall his delivery and stuff like that, the portrayal of Jafar was just didn't nail it on the head. So that's how I feel about the film. So anyway, I my positives are they do overcome the negatives, but yeah, that negative that couple of one of the negatives is like very like it does hold a lot of weight, and that's really unfortunate. So, but overall, the live action film or live action version of Aladdin does get the job done for the most part. Like Genie is really fun, and Aladdin and Jasmine and all that stuff do their best, and it's still Aladdin for the most part. And again, I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. So I think this is one of the few live action films are at least acceptable. So with that, my final score for this film of Aladdin of 2019, I'm gonna give this a 7 out of 10. Pretty much like most of those the points that were deducted are towards Jafar. But I do have to commend on the CGI effects for the most part, and the musical numbers, the singing and the dancing and the choreography. Some of the editing, yeah, that gets deducted, but it's mostly on Jafar and Iago. Like you expect to see the dual kind of dynamic of like master and henchman and stuff like that, but you don't really get to see that, and it's just really unfortunate. So that's why I got a 7 out of 10. Otherwise, it might have been a 6 out of 10, but because of all the good parts being really cool, especially with Will Smith as Genie, it bumps up to an extra point. So 7 out of 10 again from me. For those who are very curious about Aladdin as a live action sort of piece, I would say go watch it. Dolby Cinema or IMAX, it's up to you. It's kind of optional. It's not really necessary. But because I had AMC A-List, I just went ahead and go watch it in Dolby Cinema. But maybe because I guess Dolby Cinema looks better in a sense, but the sound is like they could have done a little more with the sound, especially with the musicals. But I don't know. Either way, you'll still get most out of either versions or either formats with IMAX or Dolby Cinema. So yeah, it's still a recommendation, I guess, if you guys really want to see Aladdin in a live action setting. And yeah, I don't know if they'll do more of this, but if they're going to do more, I would love to see the King of Thieves, which is the third one, because I heard very mixed things. I never actually watched the third film, and or second one, I don't know. Whichever one is the one with the King of Thieves is like very, very mixed to negative. So maybe they'll do better with the live action version. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty much it on the Aladdin of 2019, the live action version of the animated film of the same name. Enjoyed it. 7 out of 10. Recommended. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in for my review on this movie. If you have any comments related to this movie, and no, I won't be talking about spoilers too much because I feel like it's still not enough for me to like go really break it down that any further, while spoiling it as well. So, But anyways, if you have any related comments to Aladdin, leave me down below. Love to check them out. What do you guys think about the movie? Also, for those who watched it, please do leave comments like that. Really, really want to check them out. Anyway, and also don't forget to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, all that stuff, and check out the sponsorships in the description below. Further helps out the channel and really appreciate it. So next time, I believe I will be reviewing Godzilla, King of the Monsters. That one I'm really looking forward to that one. I love Godzilla movies, and so you can definitely catch me. Maybe you'll catch with me and Danny. We'll see about that. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Sean out.